Shalom, Yahawah, Shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. And as y'all brothers can see, this video is going to be in regards to the Sabbath. What day is the Sabbath? You know, I've done videos on this before, live streams in the past. For those of y'all who've been in the Israelite community, y'all understand there's always a huge debate on what day is the Sabbath. Is it the 7-day Sabbath from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, or the lunar Sabbath? You got one group of people who say your Sabbath is irregular, it doesn't fall on the same day. And then you have people who say the lunar Sabbath is a Sabbath because of man-made traditions and the calendars and the times being changed, you can't tell the weekly Sabbath except by the new moon. So I want to go over this because a lot of times brothers get confused, sisters get confused, because at the end of the day, the Most High is not the author of confusion. As it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, the Most High instilled order in everything, from the birds in the sky, to the animals on the ground, to the fishes in the ocean, and even when it comes to the time, because at the end of the day, the Most High creates everything in order. And the best way for you to be able to tell the time is not only through the constellations, but also through the patterns of how everything was made. This goes back all the way to the time when the Most High was creating everything. We're going to go to the book of Genesis chapter 2. This is the book of Genesis chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished and all the host of them. And on the seventh day the Most High ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And the Most High blessed the seventh day and sanctified it," meaning he made it holy, because that in it he had rested from all his work which the Most High created and made. So this is just establishing that from the beginning, the Most High rested on the seventh day and made it holy. So you have a lot of people who disregard the Sabbath, who think the Sabbath isn't important. You have a lot of Christians who believe that the Sabbath is any day, you can work any day and you can worship God any day, but they don't understand the spiritual resonance when you keep the Sabbath. There are many brothers and sisters who have a testimony that when they started to keep the Sabbath according to how the Bible told them to keep it, they noticed that they were rejuvenated spiritually, mentally, physically. Your body is not designed to constantly work. That's not how the Most High created your body. So your body is in line with the same creation of the Most High, in which you have a period where you're supposed to work and then you take time off. Even when it comes to scientific studies, they oftentimes speak about how, you know, if you want the max production and optimization within your body, you should take a day of rest. So, you know, this is something that goes above what we can see and logically think and reason, because we are essentially creations from a supernatural being that can't be explained. So getting into the point, whenever you brothers and sisters keep these holy days, you're going to notice a spiritual resonance, whether it's a Sabbath, Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Day of Atonement, Pentecost, etc., etc. And the reason why it's important to understand when the actual Sabbath is because, you know, we're not supposed to be doing things in error. We're supposed to always strive for truth. You know, a lot of brothers and sisters, you know, they are ignorant to the understanding of which Sabbath is right. So I just feel it's right for me to go over it. Now, for those of y'all brothers who know me, y'all know I keep the Friday Sabbath sundown to Saturday sundown. And at one point, I actually kept the lunar Sabbath for a few months because I thought that was the actual Sabbath. But when you just really look at it, and I'm not going to just go off of a hypothesis, you can figure out the actual Sabbath based off of the holy days, because again, the Most High made a system. And for those of y'all who are listening who follow the new moon Sabbath, a lot of y'all gonna click off the video, but this is proof to show when the Most High created his Sabbath. We're gonna look at the holy days, and I came up with a calendar. So let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 23. So as y'all can see right here, this is Leviticus 23 and 1. It says, "The Most High spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of Yahawah, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocation. Even these are my feasts. 6 days shall your work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, the holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of Yahawah in all your dwellings." So straightforward. 6 days you work, 7th day you rest. That's the Most High's period for when a week is in his eyes. Now going down to verse 4, it says, "These are the feasts of Yahawah, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. And the 14th day of the first month at evening is the Lord's Passover. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto Yahawah. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And the first day you shall eat, you shall have a holy convocation, you shall do no servile work." So this is speaking about the Passover and unleavened bread. And I did a video breaking down how when you understand Yahawashi's death and crucifixion, it disproves the lunar Sabbath. But I'm going to go into that aspect later in the video. I was reading through the scriptures in Matthew and I was going over it. And one thing I did is I asked ChatGPT what I had already explained in the video, and it agreed in regards to how you can disprove the lunar Sabbath, the Yahawah's crucifixion, because he died on what day? The Passover. Now, when you follow lunar Sabbath, what days does the new moon come in, right? The first day. And what day is also aligned in that 7-day cycle? On the first day, the 8th day, the 15th day, and the 22nd day. You have the Passover, right? The Feast of Unleavened Bread. So if Yahawashi died on the Passover, when you read in the book of Matthew, when you read in the book of Mark, when you read in the book of Luke, what did they do to Yahawashi's body before a certain day happened? They buried it because it was the preparation day before the Sabbath. When you understand that logic, you understand that if Yahawashi died on the Passover, according to the new moon, that would have been a Sabbath. But the people were preparing for another Sabbath that week because they were two separate Sabbaths. But that I'm getting ahead of myself. There was something else that I had did when I was just looking up, different scriptures to prove the actual Sabbath. And ChatGPT actually gave me another way to break this down. You can break it down with the Feast of First Fruits, because there's another holy day that aligns with the Sabbath. So we're going to read about it. It's Leviticus 23:10. It says, "Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest." So basically, the Most High required an obligation where when you were having crops in the land of Israel, of course, you're supposed to give a percentage of it to the Most High. Whatever reaped first, you separated that and gave it to the Most High. Because again, what is the first great commandment? To love the Most High with all thy mind, thy heart, thy soul. Meaning, put the Most High first. So just like when the Most High bless you in your life, whether it be through money, whether it be through, gifts and blessings, you're supposed to give to the Most High first before you give to yourself, right? So keep on going. It says, "And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahawah to be accepted for you. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. You will offer that day when you wave the sheaf and he lamb without blemish on the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahawah. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahawah for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of a hin. And you will eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the self-same day that you have brought an offering unto your power. It will be a statute forever throughout your generation and all your dwellings." This is speaking of the Feast of First Fruits. Now, the reason why a lot of groups don't speak on this is because we're not in the land. We're not farmers. So a lot of times we can't come together and offer part of our crops to give to the Most High. And obviously we don't have a temple. But again, many brothers do keep this and they'll have a feast. So this is the point of it, right? In verse 15, it says, "And you will count unto you from the day after the Sabbath." So this is speaking of when you had a Passover, whatever following Sabbath you have, you're supposed to keep the Feast of First Fruits the day after the next Sabbath. So let's say your Passover is on a Wednesday, right? Or let's just do Monday. If you had a Sabbath on Friday, essentially the next day, the following day, you were to do your Feast of First Fruits, which would be either Saturday night or Sunday morning, right? So from that day, this is what you're supposed to do. It says, "Even unto the morrow after the 7 Sabbaths," or I read from the top, "you will count unto you from the day after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete." So 7 weeks, right? "Even unto the day after the 7th Sabbath, you will number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Most High." So the Most High commanded for 7 weeks, the following day after 7 Sabbaths, you would offer a new meat offering unto the Most High, because that represented the harvest of what the Most High had blessed when you cultivate it in your lands, which most people know it as the Feast of Weeks, but also in the New Testament, they call it the Pentecost, which is when Yahawashi breathed the Holy Spirit and baptized the disciples in the body with the gift of the Holy Spirit. So this is my point. How many days are you supposed to number from the day of the offering of the Feast of First Fruits to the Feast of Weeks? 50, right? I mean, think about what the name Pentecost means. Just look it up. I'll just read right here. It says, "What is the meaning of Pentecost? Pentecost is a Christian holiday, Hebrew holiday, that celebrates the descent of the Holy Spirit on Yahawashi's follower. The word Pentecost comes from the Greek word Pentekoste, which means 50th. So again, that word lines up with the number of days the Most High commanded us to number once we offer the Feast of First Fruits. So this is my point. For those of y'all brothers who understand the lunar Sabbath, does the new moon come in on the same day every single week or every single month? So as y'all can see, this is, essentially Esau's astronomy. They predict the new moons and the cycles of the moon ahead of time, right? So this month, the new moon will come in February 27th. Now you can see on the left corner, on the left side, the new moon, the different new moons, how they come in. January 29th, February 27th, March 29th, April 27th. Essentially, the new moon has a cycle of 28 and a half days. So every time the new moon comes in, it's either coming in after 28 days or 29 days. Now, let's look at an actual calendar to see when those days come in. This is a calendar I got from Canva, just to kind of illustrate how the new moons come in, right? You got March 2025. So depending on when you keep the new moon, when if you do the dark of the moon or silver light, whatever it may be, the first new moon of 2025 is going to be March 29th. That's when the biblical new year starts, right? Of course, it starts in the spring, which we know happens on Saturday, right? Saturday evening or Friday evening, right? So as you can see, 2 weeks from that day is the Passover, because we know the Passover happens on a transition from the 14th night at evening into the 15th night, because that's when the Feast of Unleavened Bread is. Brothers sometimes get that confused, thinking the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread are on different days, but they're on the same day. They begin at the same time. So you can see right here, the Passover is on the 12th. And then following what the Most High said, the following Sabbath, the day after that next Sabbath, is when you offer the Feast of First Fruits, as you can see. So you got 12 right here. Let's zoom in a little bit. So you got 12 right here, right? So boom, first day. And then the following Sabbath. So that's 7 days right there. On the 25th, that would be the 7th day. So 26th is the 8th day. Then May 3rd would be the 15th day. So that's 2 weeks in. And then you can see right here. And basically, I just numbered it, right? So when you do the numbers, it's 50 days. Because up top, you got first day 1, next week 8, next week 15, next week 22, next week 29, 36, 43, 50. Now y'all can see, obviously, I'm just showing you going off of the weekly Sabbath. Because again, when you do the new moon doesn't come in on the same day every single day. So whenever you have the biblical New Year, if you keep the 7-day Sabbath and you keep the new moon Sabbath, your New Year is going to start around the same time, because the cycle of the moon doesn't change, right? But this is the issue. Every single month, the new moon changes. So again, in March, the new moon comes in Saturday night, right? But in April, look at this. The new moon comes in Sunday night. So a question to y'all brothers who keep the lunar Sabbath. When the new moon comes in and you're numbering the days from the Feast of First Fruits to the Feast of Weeks, are you continuing to number from Saturday? Or are you numbering from Sunday? Because the Bible says you have to do the day after the Sabbath. And if your new moons is coming in on different days, you have to go off of that new moon. So instead of you counting the 26th as your 8th day, you would count the 28th as your 8th day. And then you would count the 5th as the 15th day, 12, 22nd, 19, 29. 26, 30, 37, and so on and so forth, right? Well, actually, you would count the 27th of May as your 36th day, because again, when you go in May, the new moon comes in on Monday. So when you do the math, when you started your Sabbath from the new year, right? And you had the first Sabbath after the Passover, it would come in on that Saturday night, but then the new moon comes in and it literally destroys your calendar, bruh. So when you do the math on it, when you keeping the day after the 7th Sabbath and you're following the lunar Sabbath, you have 53 days, anywhere from 52 to 53 days, depending on when you believe the new moon comes in. So again, does the word Pentecost mean 53 or does it mean 50? And this ain't no disrespect, but again, you got brothers who proclaim that you worship Saturn if you keep the Friday to Saturday sundown. Like, bro, what are you talking about? Again, the Most High has a system of order. Everything happens in order. If you say that the Sabbath is on a specific day, it has to be right from the book of Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation, because the Most High literally rested on the 7th day. The Most High didn't rest on 7 days, 7, and then next week he rested on 8 days And then the following week was a Sabbath on a Monday compared to a Sunday, or whatever day you want to call those days, right? So again, the Most High has symmetrical, because again, the number 7 is for the number of completion. So if the Sabbaths aren't in 7-day cycles, it's an incomplete Sabbath, because the moon is an incomplete cycle. It's not even. You see what I'm saying? That's why when people keep strictly lunar months, a lot of times what happens is that their holy days fall out of season. Because if you go off of a lunar calendar, you oftentimes neglect to keep the years in the proper seasons for the holy days. So that's the first way that you can disprove the lunar Sabbath. Now, I also want to go back into that account that I was telling you about Yahawah's crucifixion, because that's another way to disprove the lunar Sabbath. Let's go to the book of Matthew. All right, so this is the book of Matthew, chapter 26 and 17. It says, "Now the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Yahawashi, saying unto him, Where will you that we prepare for you to eat the Passover?" So again, for y'all brothers, again, the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover happened on the same day. Don't get confused when it says the 14th at evening. It's talking about the end of the 14th day at evening carrying over to the 15th day, because the day that you will have a holy convocation is on the 15th day of the first month. Let's go back to Leviticus and get it. All right, so this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and 5. It says, "In the 14th day of the month at even is Yahweh's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein." So just going into it, the first day of a Feast of Unleavened Bread is a holy convocation where you're not supposed to do any servile work. So let's go back to Matthew 27. Salaki, I meant 26. So it says, "On the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Yahawashi, saying unto him, Where will you that we prepare for you to eat the Passover?" So we understand that Yahawashi was crucified on the day of the Passover. All the groups understand that. So according to the new moon, you would have the Passover on the Sabbath, because again, the new moon comes in and starts the month according to them. So the first day of the month would be the first Sabbath. Then the 8th day would be a Sabbath. Then the 15th day, again, the 15th day is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So every time in the scriptures, if there's a Passover happening, that must be the actual Sabbath. But when you read the details of Yahawah's crucifixion, we're going to go to the part where he passed away on the cross, and look what happens to his body. All right, so Matthew 27 and 45, it says, "Now from the 6th hour there was darkness all over the land until the 9th hour." And 6th hour is really talking about 12 p.m. noon, and 9th hour is talking about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, right? And about the 9th hour, Yahawashi cried with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Some of them that stood there when they heard that said, "This man calleth for Elijah. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. And the rest said, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." Yahawashi, when he cried again and with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. So essentially Mashiach passed away on the cross. Now let's go down, right? So we're going to go to Matthew 27 and 57. This is key. When Yahawashi was buried, it says, "When the evening was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was Yahawashi's disciple. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Yahawashi. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre and departed. And there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre." Okay, now read this, 62. It says, "Now the next day that followed the day of the preparation." What's the day of preparation, brothers? It's that day on Friday afternoon where you're cooking and making sure all your stuff is clean, because you're preparing for the what? The Sabbath, right? So according to the Bible witness, Yahawashi died on the day of preparation, or the day before the day of preparation, which would be Thursday, which would align with him being crucified on Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and then he rose on Sunday, right? 3 days, 3 nights. So when you look at this, if Yahawashi died on the Passover, according to the lunar Sabbath doctrine, he died on the weekly Sabbath. But why is his body getting prepared on the preparation day before the Sabbath? Even let's just keep going, because there's more witnesses on it, right? Matthew 28:1. It says, on the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. So what day did they come and visit Yahawashi? The first day of the week. So my question to you is, if the lunar Sabbath says that the Passover is the Sabbath, right? If he died on the Passover, how was his body resurrected in 3 days? If according to the lunar doctrine, the Sabbath fell when he died, when he passed away on the Passover. It don't make no sense unless you're telling me that Mary Magdalene, all the disciples, and even the Sadducees and Pharisees came to Yahawashi's temple 7 days later, a week later. That don't make no sense. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because essentially Yahawashi died on the Passover. His body was buried the day to prepare for the Sabbath, and then they got his body. He was resurrected the first day of the week, meaning that he was in the ground buried during the Sabbath. He didn't die on the Sabbath like what according to the lunar doctrine says. We can just pull up the calendar so y'all can get an illustration, right? All right, so this is a good calendar that we could use. This is 2025, right? So as y'all can see, you can see the different cycles of the moon. So 24 is when the new moon comes in, the dark moon, right? The day would be the 24th. So if we were to hypothetically put when Yahawashi passed away to be in July, right? That would be on the 24th, because this is the first day of the month, right? So we know the Passover is 15 days from the new moon. So you would go down 31, that's the 8th day. August, that's the 7th day, right? So Yahawashi would have passed away on the 7th, right? Which would be a Thursday. That would be when his body was crucified. He was buried following on the preparation day, which obviously our brothers understand, according to this, would be either Thursday in the evening or Friday in the afternoon, right? So essentially, when you go from Thursday, the day he died, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it would only be 3 days, because again, they came to check his tomb on the first of the week. In order for the lunar Sabbath to make sense, you would have to have said that when his body died on Thursday, they wouldn't have shown up until the following Thursday, which makes no sense. Or the following Friday. That makes no sense, because even Yahawashi himself, what did he say? So this is Matthew 12:39. But Yahawashi answered them and said, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So he was in there for how many days? 3 days. And when Mary Magdalene and the disciples came, what day of the week was it? The first day of the week. So clearly Yahawashi couldn't have died on the Sabbath, because the Sabbath would have been the 7th day. Then they're going to show up the next day, or they're going to wait a week? Come on. Even the Pharisees knew that Yahawashi said he would be in the ground for 3 days and 3 nights. Let's look it up. All right, this is Matthew 62. It says, now the next day that followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, sir, we remembered that the deceiver said while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure, meaning sealed shut, until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, he is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first. So this is my point. If everybody who knew who Yahawashi was knew he was going to be in the ground for 3 days and 3 nights, and then Mary Magdalene and all of them came on the first day of the week, there's no way they came the next day if he died on the Sabbath and rose the next day. There's no way they waited a week. Of course not. They were anticipating Yahawashi to be resurrected. So when you look at the lunar Sabbath doctrine, the Sabbath always has to fall on the Passover. And according to when Yahawashi died, he didn't die on the weekly Sabbath. He died on the holy convocation of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, was put in the ground, and then he rose up the day after the Sabbath. So that lets you know that the lunar Sabbath is in error. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. You know, sometimes it's easy to look at a video and they have all these scriptures and they sound like they're right. But again, for it to be the actual Most High Sabbath, it has to be perfect in the alignment according to the holy days, according to the biblical records, the witnesses. You can read in John, you can read in Mark, you can read in Luke, you can read in Matthew. It all says the same thing. Let's just look up some other scriptures that say the exact same thing. Boom, Luke 24:1. Now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came into the sepulchre. So think about this. If the new moon was the lunar Sabbath, if the lunar Sabbath was was the weekly Sabbath and it fell on the Passover, they would have came on the 4th day of the week. Because if Yahawashi died on the 1st day, they would have came on the 4th. Second witness, let's go to the book of John. Boom, John 20:1. The 1st day of the week came Mary Magdalene early when it was yet dark. So after 3 days and 3 nights, they came and it was the 1st day of the week. Let's go to the book of Mark. Mark 16. And when the Sabbath was passed, Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Salome had brought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning on the 1st day of the week, they came up to the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. Boom, 4 witnesses right there. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying, and hopefully y'all brothers and sisters who are confused about when the actual Sabbath was, those 2 things, helped y'all align and figure out the truth. I give all praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Until next time, it's the brother Ash Ibad signing out.